So, like the biggest cyber prediction market out there, right? It's saying a huge US breach by June 1. It's an 18% thing. But that number, it's not actually about the threat itself, is it? It's more about how sluggish we are, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely, Marcus. It's wild. Palo Alto's Unit 42 just disclosed this month that Frontier AI, like these really advanced models, they're surfacing way more vulnerabilities than just like your standard scans. And then you see Microsoft, they shipped a patch Tuesday, under insane load, you know? Lawmakers are pressing the White House and nothing's moving. It's just stagnant.
Right? It's like this 22-point gap. You've got these headlines selling total panic, but then the order book, it's just like yawning, barely moving. Both sides are looking at the exact same evidence, and one of them has to be mispricing this whole thing.
Yeah, and here's the kicker, I think. Most of the coverage, it's treating that 18% as like the actual probability of a breach, but it's not. It's the probability of resolution. The breaches themselves and the entire machinery that confirms them, they're on completely different clocks, and almost nobody is actually naming that gap.
That's wild. So if CyberExp 26, this contract, if it moves past 30 cents with some real depth before May 21, then capital, like money, it's repricing toward catastrophe, right? And we'll see it before the headlines even do. But if it doesn't, then the question becomes, is absence of measurement the same thing as absence of harm? It's a deep one.
Let's kind of start with what the market's actually doing here, because this contract, it really is the cleanest signal, I think, in this entire field. CyberExp 26, it's a Cauchy instrument, right? It says yes if there's a major US data breach by June 1. It's priced at 18 cents. And the order book depth, analysts call it thin, meaning all that panic the headlines are screaming about, it's just not showing up as like real conviction in the actual money flow.
And the disclosure cycle that should be moving that price, it's incredibly loud right now. Like Palo Alto Unit 42 just published research showing that frontier models, these AI models, are surfacing materially more exploitable conditions than, your legacy red team baselines. Axios and Cyberscoop, they've got lawmakers on record, like pressing the White House about patch governance. And get this, the May 13th PPI shock, it printed a separate inflation contract, NFL 26-May at 62 cents with deep liquidity. Capital moved on inflation. Capital didn't move on cyber. That's the asymmetry I think everyone is totally missing.
Okay, so wait, what exactly does that mean? What's the mechanism here?
Right, so Frontier AI, it just compresses that discovery to exploit window, The marginal cost of finding a vulnerability has totally collapsed. What used to need a six-figure lead team budget now just runs on a model call. And the capability, it's symmetric, right? The same tool that makes it easier for defenders makes it easier for adversaries. Then you've got the federal architecture for this, CISA's known exploited vulnerabilities catalog. It operates on a fixed clock binding directive called BOD 22-01. The second something hits the KEV, every federal civilian agency has this hard remediation deadline. It's very prescriptive. Which is where I think the whole framing of this story starts to totally fall apart. The narrative we're usually given, it treats this as AI speed versus bureaucratic slowness, as if the bureaucracy is, just trying to keep up and losing. But look at it through what the bureaucracy is actually optimizing for. The KEV mechanism, it wasn't designed to outrun adversaries. It was designed to be auditable, to create a paper trail that, protects the agency from blame after the fact. The clock isn't a defense instrument, Marcus. It's a deniability instrument. When the patch doesn't exist and the clock starts anyway, the agency is just documenting that it cannot remediate. And that documentation, that's the actual product.
Wow. So, imagine a chess tournament, right? And one side is legally required to announce 14 days in advance exactly which piece they're going to leave undefended next. The defender has to telegraph the move. The attacker is legally entitled to read the registry. That's the KEV catalog under AI compressed discovery. And that legal stopwatch, it becomes adversarial intelligence the moment the patch is late. Microsoft's May 2026 cycle, it distributed corrections across an AI-assisted discovery load. No actively exploited 0 days in that wave, but the load itself, that's the signal, right? The sheer volume of disclosures now determines if the patch architecture can absorb the rate.
Exactly. which means the 18% on the contract isn't really pricing the threat itself. It's pricing whether the system that confirms threats can actually keep up with the threats it's already surfacing. Different clocks, right? The threat clock, that's on AI compression. The confirmation clock, that's on federal civilian compliance audit. The market's reading the confirmation clock, and the confirmation clock, it's just not speeding up.
So we're just left with this then. Capital is pricing the speed of the resolution machinery, not the actual volume of cyber events. And both sides of the gap, the headlines yelling 40% panic, the order book yawning at 18, they're both right about what they're measuring. They're just measuring different objects. And almost nobody is naming that crucial difference.
That gap, between the threat clock and the confirmation clock, it's like the leading edge of something much, much bigger. The same architecture that creates it in cyber has been quietly installed across basically every consequential decision system in this country. And the regulatory contrast, it really tells you it's structural, not accidental. Executive Order 14179, signed January 23, 2025. It rescinded the prior administration's AI safety framework and directed agencies to remove what it called barriers to American AI leadership. But then, the Take It Down Act, signed May 19, 2025, bipartisan, 409-2 in the House, unanimous consent in the Senate, that imposes a 48-hour removal clock on AI-generated deepfakes with real FTC enforcement under Chair Andrew Ferguson. Same Article 2 actor, right? They relaxed the broad surface, but they clocked the narrow visible harm.
And the Take It Down Act is like a proof of concept then, right? The political coalition, it exists. The legal architecture, it exists. The enforcement clock, it works. 48 hours, statutory penalty, named platforms on the hook, which means the absence of an equivalent architecture for the broader AI cyber surface, it's not a capacity limit, it's a choice. The infrastructure to clock AI cyber harm, it could be built tomorrow. It just, it hasn't been built.
Totally. Now, follow that same architecture sideways. The healthcare system, it's rapidly absorbed AI for clinical documentation, claims adjudication, coverage decisions. KFF Health News just reported yesterday that federal posture toward AI healthcare safeguards is loosening, while state-level oversight of coverage denials is totally fragmented. The optimization function across these systems is what analysts call access velocity, basically throughput. Process more patients faster, adjudicate more claims faster. The function does not, does not include patient-side error visibility as an input. That's not an accident. It's the same architectural choice.
And the household, we have no exit, do we? The Federal Reserve credit data shows discretionary spending compressed, while fixed cost commitments just hold steady. People are running up credit utilization just to maintain baseline life. To opt out of AI-mediated healthcare, you'd have to find a provider that doesn't use AI documentation and ensure that doesn't use AI claims review, and you'd have to do that during an inflation cycle where you can't afford to leave the network you've already negotiated. The exit cost is higher than the unknown error rate, so the population accepts the interaction, and every interaction generates training data.
Which is the loop, Marcus, that nobody is naming. The household under price pressure is the training set for the very systems applying the pressure. Every claim denial that goes unchallenged, it trains the algorithm that the denial rate is tolerable. Every AI-assisted record that confuses a clinician without producing a downstream signal, it trains the system that the confusion is invisible. The optimization function calibrates on throughput because throughput is what it can see. The harm, it has no instrument. And here's the question I cannot stop turning over. If the system cannot see the harm it causes, how does it know when to stop?
5 to 10 years out, the projection follows this mechanism, right? This architecture installed in AI cyber, high deployment velocity, narrow fast clock enforcement on photogenic harms, structural absence on the broad surface. That same architecture is now operating in claims processing, pre-trial risk assessment, mortgage underwriting, school placement algorithms. Each of those surfaces will produce its own version of the speed gap. None of them will have a binary contract pricing the harm. We'll be measuring throughput in every system that matters and nothing else.
So when we sit here in May 2026 watching a single cyber contract hold at 18 cents, the actual data we're collecting isn't really about cyber. It's about what the rest of the surface looks like when the same architecture matures. Path B in this single contract. No resolving event. Gap closes by narrative deflation. That's the dominant projection across the whole field. The structural absence persists not because there's no harm, but because no instrument is calibrated to detect it.
I want to, push back on something. Because the move I named in the open, watching CyberX 26 through 30 cents by May 21, that's the operational call I'm asking the audience to make. And under your framing, you're saying that signal isn't measuring the threat, it's measuring the resolution machinery's willingness to confirm a threat. So tell me, why should the audience still watch that price?
Because I think the operation you named is totally sound, but the interpretation it gets pinned to is wrong, and the wrong interpretation will get the audience hurt. If somebody watches the contract and reads movement as, oh, the threat is getting closer, they'll prepare for the wrong event. The price doesn't move when threats accumulate. It moves when the market reads that one of 3 named discretionary authorities is about to convert reserved power into actual action.
Spell that out for me. Who are we talking about?
Okay, so 3 officials. FTC Chair Andrew Ferguson, he holds discretionary authority over whether the take it down enforcement reminder converts into a docketed action against a named platform. Then CISA leadership, they hold discretionary authority over KEV catalog entry timing for AI-assisted discoveries. And Senator Ted Cruz, as chair of Senate Commerce, he holds discretionary authority over whether the take it down architecture extends toward broader AI cyber harm. All 3 of those authorities, they're currently held in reserve. The contract price moves when the market reads that one of them is about to be exercised.
So the steel man of my position is this. Even if the contract measures resolution machinery rather than threat magnitude, the speed at which a society can officially confirm what it's seeing is itself decision relevant, right? A country where breaches occur but cannot be officially confirmed inside an 18-day window is a country whose plausible deniability surface has hardened. That's a real political fact, and it's totally worth measuring. The contract is partial intelligence on that hardening. Watching it isn't watching threat, it's watching the speed at which discretionary authority gets exercised.
And under that refined framing, the operation absolutely survives. Watch CyberX 26 through 30 cents by May 21st, but read movement as a discretionary authority signal, not a threat signal. If Ferguson docketed a take-it-down enforcement action against a named platform, the contract would move. If CISA accelerated its catalog cadence outside the standard maintenance window, the contract would move. If Cruz scheduled a commerce hearing on AI cyber enforcement extension, the contract would move. The price is reading the willingness of named officials to spend power they've been holding. That's what you're actually watching.
Which forces an admission, right? The headlines aren't wrong about the threat being real. They're wrong about who has the agency to convert threat into resolution. The pressure that should be on adversaries is structurally diffuse. The pressure that converts a vulnerability into a recorded harm is concentrated in 3 named offices, and none of those offices is currently spending what it has. The breach question and the confirmation question aren't on different sides of a market disagreement. They're on opposite ends of an architecture that was built to separate them.
So, here's what you can totally do, starting now. Watch CyberX 26 through 30 cents by May 21st, but not as a read on whether a breach is coming. Instead, think of it as a read on whether one of 3 named officials is about to spend authority they're holding in reserve: Ferguson at the FTC, CISA leadership, or Cruz on Senate Commerce. If that price moves with depth, converting from thin to moderate, one of those 3 has telegraphed they're about to act. If it doesn't, the structural gap holds, and you've just measured the floor of plausible deniability getting another layer thicker, right?
Yeah, exactly. The forensic line in the ledger named it cleanly. The slowest input to the system is the one capital cannot front-run. Capital is front-running everything it can measure. The harm with no binary is the harm the system has decided not to measure. And the same architecture, Marcus, is being installed in every consequential decision in your life. Your healthcare, your credit, your school placement, your insurance, none of them have a binary either. We're not waiting for a breach. We're watching for the day we figure out we've been inside one this whole time.
And with that powerful insight, Marilyn, we've come to the end of another compelling discussion. Thank you so much for tuning in today, everyone. If you found this conversation valuable and want to help us continue bringing you these essential analyses, please take a moment to like this video, leave a comment with your thoughts, share it with your network, and of course, subscribe to help us grow.
Absolutely, Marcus. Your engagement truly helps highlight these critical, often unseen forces at play. It's crucial that we all understand the underlying structures shaping our world, especially when the crucial signals are often hidden in plain sight.
Marilyn, for those listening who want to dive deeper into these concepts, what's one final takeaway you'd want them to remember?
Remember, the market signals we see aren't always measuring what we think they are. Always question the clock. Always question the instrument. It's about agency, not just threat.
Powerful advice. A huge thank you to Marilyn Von Savant for her expert insights. And to our audience, until next time, stay informed and stay vigilant.